Welcome into another edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside the great Heath Bell. Heath, Padres and Dodgers met for the first time this season. Padres dropped the afternoon finale today against the Dodgers 5-2. And with the loss, they dropped the series, losing 2 of 3 at home against the Dodgers. Obviously not the outcome anytime you lose a series at home, especially to your rival, that you want. At the same time, it's a mid-June 3-game series. These two teams face each other again 10 more times this year. Just what were your overall takeaways from the series and what you saw from the Padres?
I'm not really worried about it because a couple years ago, the Dodgers, we couldn't beat the Dodgers. The Padres couldn't beat the Dodgers. And in the playoffs, they ended up beating them because the Dodgers were overconfident. So I just kind of chalk it up to that. But what I do see is if you want to get to the World Series, you're going to have to go through the Dodgers. And the pitching staff just has to be a little bit more fine-tuned and not leave that one pitch, because good teams like that waited for that one pitch and they get it, and their pitchers, get people out.
Yeah, I think if you want to take some positives from the series, look, we knew this already, that the Padres can compete with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the defending World Series champions. They're the big dogs in MLB. We know that. And for years, the Padres have played them well and played them close. And we saw that throughout the series. An extra inning loss in the opener on Monday. They took it to the Dodgers with an 11-1 win on Tuesday. And yes, it was Lou Trevino, Matt Sauer, and Kike Hernandez throwing 2 1/3 innings. I did not have that on my Banco card for the series. But hey, the 11 runs count the same. And look, today they had an early lead. They lost it. They were down 4-2. They had chances, just couldn't quite get the big hit. The Dodgers won the series. But again, the Padres, they had a chance to win Monday. They had a chance to win Wednesday. They did win Tuesday. And again, moral victories don't count for much. But like I said, these teams face each other 13 times. The first 3-game series between the two teams is not going to dictate what happens the entire rest of the season. Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, you want to win these games, especially at home against a hated rival when the division is this close. But again, there's a lot of baseball left, and just kind of say, okay, got to turn the page and go play the Diamondbacks now. And by the way, they get the Dodgers 4 more times next week, so there's no time to kind of sit and mope around anything. Just get them again next week.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it because it's really gonna just get into the playoffs and get hot, because the way it's looking, it's going to be San Francisco, the Padres, and the Dodgers in the playoffs from the West. The Diamondbacks might be squeaking in, but it's going to be 3 teams from the West. So as long as you get in the playoffs, you never know what might happen. So
yeah, and that's the one element. And that's the element. We know how tight this division is already. Look, the Dodgers are in first place despite having 14 pitchers on the injured list, and despite the fact they have a bottom 10 ERA in baseball. And that's not going to last the entire year. So they're just going to keep winning and keep getting better. The Giants have continued to surprise. Their pitching is the real deal. Their offense has some guys who need to get hot a little bit, but they're a good team. They're a competitive team. You have the Padres. And oh, by the way, the Diamondbacks, everyone was leaving them for dead once Corbin Burns got hurt and then ultimately needed Tommy John surgery. The D-backs have won 7-10. They're back at 500. They're right in the mix again. So I think from the perspective of, it's a bummer to lose the series just because every game counts in this division with how tight it is. But again, you get 3 games against the D-backs, 4 against the Dodgers coming up. So the Padres can make up any ground they may have lost here shortly. It's just a matter of going out and executing. And again, there's nothing in this series, except for one minor thing we'll get to, that I would say was any sort of red flag. Just, hey, 2 good teams play a 3-game series. Someone's going to win the series. Someone's going to lose. And Padres just came out on the losing end of it.
Yeah, I just think literally you just clean up a little bit of pitching and you beat the Dodgers. I mean, that's really what it – I mean, like today – the last game of the series, there was just 1 pitch. I mean, yeah, I know they give up a run later in the game, but really that, 3-run home run was kind of the key, and, Machado had a chance to basically tie the game, and man, 3-0, and it didn't even seem like that good of a swing. So it was kind of a little frustrating, but he probably saw the only good fastball you could see, and he just pulled it instead of driving the ball up the middle or the other way. But I mean, hey, tip it to Machado, because he's been doing really well lately. So, he can't always come through. He can come through 99% of the time, but not 1%.
So. Yeah, again, 7th inning there, Padres down 4-2, 1 out, bases loaded. the two guys who come to the plate, Luis Arias and Manny Machado, they have come through for the Padres again and again and again in big spots throughout the season. Just look, Anthony Bondon made his pitches. He got Arias to fly out, and I was definitely surprised to see Manny Machado swing 3-0 there. And look, it was an elevated fastball. I get it. It's a pitch you want to drive the other way. He rolled over it to the shortstop. It happens. Again, Arias and Machado have come through for the Padres so much, so frequently this year. There's no criticism heaped on them. It's just Anthony Bondon made the pitches, and that was that. It happens. It is what it is. There was one aspect of the game I wanted to talk to you about a little bit, and that was the decision by Mike Trout to pull Randy Vasquez after 4 2/3 innings pitch with only one earned run allowed. He was about to face the order for a third time. Shohei Ohtani coming up, tie game 1-1. He'd given up the homer to Conforto earlier in the inning. What were your thoughts about Schilt going out and getting Vasquez after 4 2/3 innings and on only one run allowed?
The only thing I can think of is I'm hoping that he was just saying his pitch count was up and he wants to rest him for the full season. I'm just hoping that it wasn't, well, it's third time through the lineup. These guys don't really do well, and it's all numbers wise, because I don't believe in all that. I mean, you could throw numbers out there, but sometimes when somebody's good, they're good. I mean, it's the reason why the best pitchers in the game don't always throw the no-hitters or the perfect games, and it's the random guy that you're like had a 5 ERA that just the stars aligned and he did great that day. Well, if Cybermetrics is involved in all that, he wouldn't go through the third time through lineup because they hit 400 off him. So no hitters in perfect games would never happen, stat wise. So I'm just hoping that they were just, hey, he's probably going to face him next week in LA. I don't want my pitchers overexposed because we're going to do well, and thinking, down the road, we're going to need him. And down the road, we're going to need him to do really well in the playoffs. So that's my predicament, what he was thinking. So that's really what I hope he was thinking.
Yeah. So look, Randy Vasquez was pitching really well, and his pitch count wasn't really up. He was only at 70 pitches.
I know, but sometimes you pitch like 90, 100, 100, 100. Sometimes you get tired at 70. And you just need that little break or some, or here's the other part that, Bud Black used to say back in the day, if your pitches started elevating, even though you're only at 70 pitches, I can see that you're getting tired, even though you don't feel tired. And trust me, pitchers never feel tired. So we always feel like we feel great. And then when we sit down, we're like, I was so tired. So
yeah, once the adrenaline calms down.
I mean, 70 pitches to 100 pitches, it's not always like, some days you wake up, you just don't feel good. I don't want to go to work. I just don't have the energy. It's mostly Mondays, but sometimes, on Friday, you just don't feel like it, or Wednesday. And then some days you just feel great and you have all the energy in the world. So it happens to ball players too.
I mean, I think the logic behind it was this, right? So Randy Vasquez has struggled the third time through the order this year. And again, it's a smaller sample because he hasn't gotten through it that many times, but for the most part this year, that has been where he has, kind of run into some trouble. The other thing is he's really struggled against lefties. And you have, Shohei Ohtani, probably the best left-handed hitter in baseball coming up in a tie game in a big spot. So I understand the logic behind it that, Randy Vasquez, again, third time through the order, and it's a lefty. It's kind of a double whammy where you don't want to risk it. It'd be one thing if the Padres were up 5-0 at that point, but tie game. And the other aspect of it as well is the bullpen was fresh because Dylan Cease threw 7 scoreless yesterday. David Morgan came in. And you have a day off tomorrow. So the bullpen's going to be fresh. It's a tight ball game. You have the combination of a lefty and third time through the order, both of which are not favorable to Vasquez. I understood the logic behind it. And look, it just didn't work out, right? I mean, Adrian Morejon did come in and strike out Shohei Ohtani and get the out. Then he struck out Mookie Betts. But, Jeremiah Estrada just did not have it today. I'm sorry. Morejon got Ohtani to ground out, not strike out, struck out Betts. But look, Estrada just did not have it today. He came in, issued a walk, gave up a homer, gave up a single. And look, he's been a great reliever all year. And some days guys just don't have it. So I understood the logic behind the decision. And again, it just came down to player execution, and Estrada just didn't have it today.
I'm just old school that starters need to go at least 5. They got to go 5. Yeah. If they don't go 5, then I basically say your outing sucked. I'm just the old school. Even if you give up 1 run, you just didn't do well.
I agree with that. I mean, realistically, in order to
Gotta
not
go
burn
through
your
five.
bullpen out, you want your starters at 5. You want them going through 6. I
No,
mean,
I'm
really,
just saying, like on an off day,
yeah,
5 innings. You got to go 5. If
yeah,
you go 4, it's like, well, gosh, this is a bullpen day.
yeah.
So
So again,
anyway,
I understand the logic. Again, it is what it
it's
is. It
it's
happened.
early. It's fine. I'm not a big, it's one of those things you just talk about, but I don't think it's that big of a thing. It's
Yeah.
not that big of a deal down the road. It really isn't.
Yeah. So just to kind of put some numbers to it, to provide context. So Randy Vasquez, first time through the order, opponent's hitting 212 with a 648 OPS. Great. Second time through the order, 235 with a 728 OPS. A little better, but still solid. Third time through the order, they're hitting 361 with a 961 OPS. So it jumps up pretty significantly. And again, I get it. Again, I also am in favor of, if guys pitching well, let them go. But
This
again,
is what I would
situation,
like to see. And I believe your numbers. But what I
yeah,
would love to see is, okay, let's say, how did he pitch Otani his first time through? How did he pitch him the second time through? And how did he pitch him the third time through? Because if it was all the same, then I believe the numbers. But I feel like when you're pitching the third time to somebody, you try to trick them. You try to do this instead of like go at them early on. Where I always felt like the best pitchers, they just go, dude, I'm going right after you. If it worked the first time, it's going to work the second time. If it worked the first 2 times, it's going to work the third time. Where I feel like sometimes pitchers, we overcomplicate things and we think hitters are better than they are. I mean, it's a round ball, round object going 90 miles an hour ish.
yeah,
It's hard to do, and we give hitters too much credit. I know it's Otani and stuff, but he ain't even hit 300 this year. And it's one of those things that I feel like we psych ourselves out and goes, okay, I struck him out with a fastball the last 2 times. He knows the fastball's coming. I got to throw something else, where the hitter's like, dude, I can't hit your fastball today. Throw me something else. And it's almost like a gift wrap, and you crush a curveball that you throw them or a slider or whatnot. And it's like, some days hitters just don't have it either. So I would just really like to see they're so stat wise. I would love to see if that was actually a stat. If I was in the organization, I would say, hey, let's see, how does he pitch them his first time through, second time through, and third time through? Is it different, or is it all completely the same? And then if it's the same, then you could kind of say, okay, chalk it up. But if it's different, what's he doing wrong? Maybe he's pitching wrong, and that's to the hitter's strength. Maybe he's throwing more off speed or more fastballs later in the game, where early on he's throwing more curveball, more off speed, or more fastballs. I don't know. So anyway,
and again, it's
go
something
down
where,
a rabbit hole if you want. So
hey, that's where the diversity of Arsenal counts. But look, at the end of the day, it was a decision they made. The logic was sound. It was
it's
probably
all right.
aggressive. That's not why they lost. It's an interesting discussion about taking out a starter that early. All right, Heath, I want to focus on the offense a little bit. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors. We'll jump right back into that.
Kratz, you look different today. Do I see Chubby's shorts on your shoulder?
Oh, the sick design. I mean, don't even get it twisted too, because the lining normally is like an SOS pad. This lining that's in the center is so soft, so smooth. The outside, so many things to choose from on chubbyshorts.com.
Facts. And the code FOUL for 20% off. I got the Tiger Sharks.
Ooh-wee.
A little blend of a tiger and a shark. It's beautiful. So don't wait. For a very limited time, shop Chubby's biggest sale of the year, $45 shorts and up to 65% off select gear. Hit up chubbyshorts.com and grab your favorites before they're gone. If you missed the sale, then use the FT code, FOUL in lowercase for 20% off. Support FT, let them know we sent you when the survey asks, and get ready to turn some heads. Summer's here. Dress like it in Chubby's.
All right, welcome back to Friar Territory. All right, Heath, we talked a lot about the pitching, the decision to pull Randy Vasquez, and just, hey, it's a series loss. It happens. Move on. There is a bigger picture issue, though, that I think does need to be addressed, and that's the Padres offense. We've talked about this before, but I think it's important to circle back because we're at a very interesting checkpoint. So the Padres scored 7 runs in the opener on Monday, 11 runs on Tuesday, again against the Dodgers bullpen game / Kike Hernandez game. And again, the runs count all the same. I don't want to discount them. They fell back to 2 runs and 4 hits today. And what we have seen now for a month straight is those games of 7 runs, 11 runs. Those are the outliers. Those are the exceptions. The norm has been scoring 2 runs a game, scoring 3 runs a game, getting 4 hits, 5 hits, 6 hits. So over the past months, today's June 11th as we're recording. So since May 11th, which was the day after the Padres 21-0 win over the Rockies. So in the past month, the Padres as a team are hitting 219, 287, 331. They're averaging 3.5 runs per game. But here's the concerning number. 17 of the 29 games they've played this last month, they've scored 3 runs or less. And we've talked about this offense being on a steady decline. Every single month has gotten worse. And I think if you're the Padres right now, you have to look at this and say, hey, we've been really fortunate. Our pitching has been nails. We're getting some big timely hits in big spots. That's helping us win. But hitting 219 and averaging 3 runs per game, scoring 3 runs per game or less more than half your games, that's just not a sustainable winning formula. And I do think it is time to shake some things up in the lineup. Again, there's a little glimmer of hope. Hey, Monday, Tuesday against the Dodgers pitching staff, ravaged by injuries, bottom 10 in ERA. Yeah, score 7, score 11. But then to see them come back down to earth today and be like, okay, this is the same offense we've been seeing for a month. This is the norm. I do think it's time to make some changes.
Yeah, it's time. I've been looking around for the offense. I can't find it, but that's why I was looking at the ground. I'm like, where did it go? Well, here's the thing is, coming out of spring training, we talked about how exciting they were, how they were going the other way. They were getting guys over. They were running. They were stealing. They were, just swinging. Yeah. And now I feel like they're almost looking for walks. They're trying to hit home runs because, occasionally they'll hit a long ball instead of let's just drive the ball the other way. Let's stay back and let the ball get deep. And what I see too many guys out in front. It's just frustrating. It's one of those things that I feel like they're coming up in big situations and they're trying to win the game right there instead of, hey, let me just get on base and let the next guy, win the game, and the next guy go, no, let me get the next guy, let me just get on base for him, this and that. And it's a little frustrating. It kind of reminds me back when I played because, we didn't score much and we had the lowest batting average in the league. But we didn't have the talent that the Padres have now. I mean, Tatis, gosh, he's probably batting 190 since, that streak or whatnot. It's been horrible. He's dropping way down. Rise have started off really bad, then kind of got hot and kind of slipped off. I just feel like he's hitting too many pop-ups. He's one of those guys that needs to hit line drives, ground balls. And then, Machado's having a really good year. You can't really say much to him. And then Jackson Merrill's kind of come down from reality from his injury. He's still hitting the ball here and there. He's hitting 300, so it's fine. I think he's doing perfectly fine. And then, Sheets is kind of having a career year, but he's never really hit really high. And I think his numbers right now are kind of higher than it has in the past. So you don't worry about that. And then the rest of the lineup, man, you just flip a coin and see who gets a hit. I mean, that's really what happens. I mean, we don't really have – I mean, it's so bad right now that I'm like, Wade needs to be in the lineup every day. And the rest of the guys are kind of below average hitters in the big leagues. It really is. I mean, when they get hits, it's like, yeah, I got a hit. So it's just frustrating when the main guys in your lineup don't get hits. Like all of our hits today were in the middle of the lineup, and it wasn't our main guys. So,
and then we've seen that Fernando Tatis Jr., Luis Arias, Manny Machado went 0 for 10 today. And again, not to pin this loss on them, guys have bad days, but it does illustrate the point that, and we can loop Jackson Merrill in there too, and that makes it, the top 4 hitters went 1 for 14. And it illustrates the point once again that when the top guys aren't on their A game, this offense just can't do a whole lot. And I think it comes down to you have to have more depth. You have to get more contributions than they're getting because it's not reasonable to expect all 4 of those guys, or even 3 of the 4 of those guys to be on their A game every single day over a 162 game season. It's just not realistic. And I think overall, and by the way, it's not anything against them. That's every team. You can't just rely on 3 or 4 hitters at the top of your lineup to carry you and expect to win. You have to be dangerous 1 to 9 or at minimum 1 to 8 to really compete at a high level. And, the Padres just don't have that. And I think the biggest thing for me is we've talked about him a little bit. They need to change some things up, right? I think at this point, it's been a steady decline. I would like to see them just make a change, move Arias to the leadoff spot, Tatis the 2-hole, Merrill the 3, Machado 4, Give Machado and Tatis more opportunities to drive in some runs. Sheets stays in the 5. Look, Xander Bogaerts, we keep talking about there's moments where it looks like something good's going to happen. He hit 3 balls over 105 miles an hour on Tuesday, the first time he's done it since 2014. But look, he's hitting 240 with a sub 650 OPS. You can't have that as a number 6 hitter in the big leagues. Just can't have it. Realistically, what they need to do, we've talked about this a lot, and I heard Mike Schultz's explanation why Luis Campusano isn't in the lineup. He needs to be in the lineup every day as their DH. His offensive potential is higher, is better than the bottom 4 guys in the Padres lineup right now. And they need to just say, look, Gavin Sheets
needs to be like, and I agree with you, he needs to be the DH for like a whole series.
I'd say a whole month. He needs
or at least a whole week. And if he doesn't get a hit in a week, then dude, just cut your losses. See you later. But he can't be sitting there. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of throw in the towel and joke around with that, but he's not getting any better if he's just sitting there, not getting at bats.
And look, there are issues with him catching. If he could catch, he'd be catching right now, given the production the Padres are getting from their catchers. We know that that's an issue, but he can hit. He hit in 2023. Last year got into some mechanical flaws. This year he was hitting at AAA, and he's just not getting the at-bats. And right now, look, if the Padres were not comfortable playing Gavin Sheets in left field, it'd be one thing. If after he ran into the wall and they said, hey, we don't want to risk this, he's too valuable to our lineup, let's just keep him at first base DH. Okay, that's one thing. But they have been comfortable putting him back out in left field. He was back out there today. If you're comfortable putting Gavin Sheets in left field, Luis Campusano needs to be your everyday DH. The Padres right now, at the state of their offense, have to have the 9 best hitters in their organization in their starting lineup, and they're not doing that right now. Luis Campusano right now, could he hit 240 with a 650 OPS? Yes, I know he is capable of exceeding more than that. Xander Bogaerts has not shown us he's capable of exceeding more than that right now. Jose Iglesias, Martin Maldonado, Elias Diaz, Tyler Wade, you talk about Wade, he's hitting 230 with a 617 OPS. Luis Campusano can absolutely exceed that. He has the ability and the talent to exceed that. Luis Campusano has more offensive ability and talent than the bottom 4 guys in the Padres order right now. He needs to be in their starting lineup as their everyday DH. And if he's not, the Padres are actively not putting their best possible offense on the field. And given the state of their offense right now, that's just a bad decision. It's a bad move, and they need to make an adjustment.
I don't understand the reason why, because they're probably right now when they're struggling, they're looking at the numbers and trying to make the best decision on number-wise instead of baseball instinct. Let me throw my best guys out there. Campusano hasn't got a hit, and I joke around all the time throwing in the towel, but I'm a big believer in, all right, just tell them, say, look, we're going on the road. Every game this road, you're hitting every. You're just going to hit. So now he doesn't have the fear of, well, if I go 0 for Monday and 0 for Tuesday, am I not going to, then it's that pressure they put on yourself. But you're like, look, the next 2 weeks, I don't care if we lose every game or whatnot. You just tell the guy, and that's where the confidence back from the manager and the players. You just tell them you're playing. You're going to have every at bat. You're DH and you're playing every at bat.
Starting Friday in Arizona, Luis Campusano needs to be the Padres everyday DH for the next month. And if he falls flat on his face, so be it. But right now, again, his offensive talent, his offensive ability is higher than what the Padres are getting from their bottom 4 in the lineup. And management's job is to put their team in the best position to win. And by not putting Luis Campusano in the lineup every day, they are failing to do that. It's that simple. And look, the Padres, to their credit, the pitching staff has been nails. They've been finding ways to win, even while hitting 219 and averaging 3 runs per game. But we know that's just not sustainable. And they've got to find different ways to put better players on the field and give guys different opportunities, because what they're doing right now, it's not like it hasn't been working for a week or 2 weeks. It's been a steady decline for 2.5 months now, and the last month has been awful. Bottom 5 in baseball by any statistic you want to measure it by, as well as just the eye test. I mean, again, statistics, eye test, it's been awful, and they got to make a change. Continuing to do the same thing over and over again is just going to sabotage their season.
And I'm just trying to figure out, when's the last time Campusano played?
He
look at him.
He made a pinch hit appearance on Tuesday against the Dodgers.
Like I said, when's the last time he played?
It has not since the Braves series. That was his last start. They've called him up, and he has received a grand
He's
total.
literally in that position, man. If I don't get a hit, they're going to send me out. They're going to release me. So he's up there pressing right now.
He got 2 at bats as a DH against the Pirates on May 31st. That was his last at bat before June 10th. And again, it's just, this is not the best way to acclimate a young guy in the majors. He needs everyday at bats. And again, is he going to single-handedly save the Padres season? Of course not. I'm not suggesting that. But this is about putting the 9 best hitters in your lineup every day. The Padres need to do that given the state of their offense, and they're not doing it. And
I'm just big on, if you're going to call somebody up because he's hitting well, put him in the lineup. They did the first day and he struck out a couple times, but I would be like, all right, don't worry about it. Keep going. But as soon as you take him out, you have in your head, oh my gosh, because I had this when I was a Met. If I gave up a run, I was going to get sit or not pitch or get sent out. He guarantee, and he'll say no, I don't think that, but behind the media and everything behind closed doors, he's like, dude, if I don't get a hit, there's negative things. Just, like if I don't get a hit, I'm not going to play.
Ideally, the perfect outcome would be Luis Campusano starts to heat up. He shows his offensive potential that he's had for years since he was in Lake Elsinore winning batting titles. And then you can make him your 6 hitter. And now you go a nice left-right balance of, again, because I do think they need to shake up the lineup a little bit, get Tatis and Machado some more RBI opportunities. Arias, Tatis, Merrill, Machado, Sheets, Campusano in the 6 hole, assuming everything goes well. Cronenworth 7, Bogarts 8, and then your Diaz Maldonado, catching duo 9. It does a lot of things for you. And again, you probably don't start out that way. Campusano needs to earn the right to hit 6, but he has the ability to do that. And that way you do so many things. You move Bogarts down in the order, you move Campusano up, get more power up there. He can absolutely destroy baseballs, foul pole to foul pole. I just think that right now it's about putting the best potential offensive lineup on the field, and the Padres need to do that. They're not doing that right now.
I agree with you.
So we'll see what happens. But all right, Heath, we have one more thing we need to talk about, in which long story short is me with a royal screw up. I'm going to have a full-on mea culpa. I'm going to hear a quick word from our sponsors, and then you will hear all about the royal screw up I had in our show with Mike Cameron earlier this week.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it, but I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card related.
It is, and right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
All right, Heath. So did you by chance listen to the show I did with Mike on Tuesday this week?
No, but I'm going to now. I just didn't happen. I was kind of busy with my kids or whatnot, so I didn't listen to it. But I want to, this is intriguing. I want to know what happened.
We had our first, at least I'd like to think it's our first Kyle is an Idiot episode. So, background.
What'd you call him? Cliff Floyd or something?
No. Better. So a little bit of background. Monday was a crazy day. One of those days where I was out of the house at 6:45 in the morning, didn't get home till 7 at night. Just, a lot of personal and professional things colliding, happens. Watch the game when I get home, 7 o'clock. That's why I wasn't down at Petco that night. Just had a lot going on. Watch the game, 10th inning, Manny Machado's up. Tanner Scott throws the slider that looks very clearly like a ball when you're watching the game live. Umpire calls Machado out, brings him up strike 3. Machado gets in his face. We see the whole thing, right? Watching it, I'm like, yeah, that was a ball. It's ball of the hand, completely a ball. I then go check the at-bat app to see where did pitch tracking have it? Pitch tracking had it as a strike. But my synapses apparently were not firing on all cylinders that day. I looked at the wrong pitch. I looked at pitch 1 instead of pitch 7, and pitch 1 was a ball.
Yeah, it was definitely a ball.
So, in my head, the umpire blew the call. So when in fact he got it right. So what do? I go on the show recording early Tuesday morning with Mike. Again, 7 a.m. early recording, had a lot going on that day. And do an entire show about how It's time for the challenge system. You can't have umpires taking the bat out of players' hands in big spots like that. Mike Estabrook is 74th out of 89 umpires in ball strike accuracy. This is just a terrible miss. Can't happen. Do a 30-minute show based on the premise that Mike Estabrook missed that call, when in fact he got it right. And so I record the show, upload it, and I'm going about my day. And all of a sudden I start getting these alerts on Twitter and on YouTube, people saying, dude, you're an idiot. It was a strike. I was like, what are you talking about? So I go back and relook at pitch tracking and see that I looked at the wrong pitch. I felt like, and still feel like, the biggest idiot ever. So
what was Mike saying?
Well, so the conversation, there was a lot of good points here, right? So like the conversation was still about the value of the challenge system, how it's time to bring it in, how at the end of the day, if we have the technology to help us, we should use it. So there was a lot of valid points that ring true regardless. But my entire premise was just completely wrong. And so this is me owning up to it. I want to formally apologize to Mike Estabrook. And also, look, I'm a big believer in if you screw up, you got to man up, you got to own it. This is me owning it. My bad. I got to be better. I promise you, for everyone listening out there who thought, wow, Kyle, you are an idiot. You got this wrong. I promise you, however dumb you think I am much, much dumber in my own brain. So this is me. This is my equivalent of, we talk about you gotta have a short memory when you're a closer, Heath. This is me. This is my version of blowing a save. Short memory. All right. Take accountability for it. Turn the page, move on, make sure it doesn't happen again. But this is me owning it. My bad, everyone. Yeah. Hey,
I will say 99% of umpires, man, they get no credit when they do their job.
Yeah.
And 99% of them are really good. There was just, about 2 or 3, really maybe 4, my course of my career and probably before that were just horrible. And they would take advantage. And if they had a grudge to you, they would do that.
Yeah.
Even, probably some do it today, but not too many. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 umpires that do that today. Yeah. There's a human, but most part umpires are really good guys, but nobody ever talks to them. That's one thing I always had a conversation. I tried to have conversation with some umpires, and some of the young ones didn't want to talk. And I was like, just trying to be a real person to them. I mean, they try their best, and when they do their best, they never get credit. If they were 100% perfect on every pitch and nobody complained, nobody would talk about the umpires. So It's kind of good that you screwed up. Nobody talks about you, but now everybody talked about you this week. It was great.
Yeah.
It's like Hollywood. They say, bad press is good press.
Yeah, so. I don't buy that at all. I'd rather not be an idiot on air for everyone to see. But your point about the umpires is well taken. I talked about this with Mike. I still would like to think there's still some value in that show. We talked about umpire, correct call rates, the challenge system, the pluses and minuses. And I think the overall point stands true. That would be good to bring it in. But to your point about umpires,
let's try to get an umpire in here and just talk to one of them and just ask them, say, hey, what's your take on, be honest. What's your take? Do you want it? Do you not want it? Do you think it lessens your, call-in abilities? Do you feel bad when something happens and they got to overturn it? I mean, or do you just go, hey, I need to be better?
Yeah, so right now, there's a great website, Scorecard. They're on Twitter. They have a great website. I really encourage them to check it out. That tracks the accuracy of all umpires when they're behind the plate. And the range of umpires getting the call right is 90 to 96%. So the low end, 90% of the calls they get right. High end, 96%. The median is 94%. So the median umpire gets balls and strike calls right 94% of the time. That's pretty good. It's just a situation where
the average was in the 80s when Hernandez was umpiring.
Probably. Yeah, Angel Hernandez certainly dragged that down. No question about it. But I mean, it's something where they do a great job. The challenge system is something that could definitely help when there's situations where there is a close.
But I'm really curious. What do they think?
And that's something that, we can certainly bring it on. I definitely have contacts with a few umpires, see about bringing one on. But I know that right now it's a touchy subject, especially considering it could be a part of what comes in next year. So we'll see what happens. But as a pitcher, I would like to ask you, would you have wanted it in your day, the challenge system?
The thing is when we had the challenge system for, the calls on the bases. I was there the first couple of years at the end of my career, and it just took forever.
Yeah, this is quick. This is 10 seconds now.
If it's quick like it's supposed to be, and like it is in tennis and stuff,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind it because as long as you can only like do it once a inning or something like that, or a pitcher.
You get 2 challenges. The way it works is so only the pitcher, catcher, and hitter can ask for a challenge. It can't be a manager.
Yeah,
you do it by tapping on their head. It takes 10 seconds tops, and you get when it started originally in AAA, they got 3 challenges per game. Then they moved it to 2 challenges per game in the International League. And this year in spring training, it was 2 challenges per game, but a successful challenge, you don't lose it. So it's something where you have 2 per game if you want to use them both.
Yeah, but like if we haven't used it in the 9th inning, could I use it twice?
Yeah, you could.
So, I mean, for the most part, I think it would have helped, because there was only a few times that you're like, come on, really?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think umpires, I would say 99% of the time, umpires got it right. But there was a few you're kind of like, huh? And even the catcher, and you could see the batter sometimes go take a step or go like this, and you're like, dude, even he knew it was. So, but it only happened probably once every 3 years. It wasn't that often. So I wouldn't mind it as long as it's quick. If it's going to be 10 seconds, boom, 10 seconds, boom, showed up on the board, boom, let's go. But I just have a fear that they're going to be like, well, in Atlanta, you could see the strike pitch was at my chest, and at home, it's at my belly button. Because I feel like hitters always complain more than pitchers, but everybody always thinks pitchers complain more.
It was actually really interesting. You'll appreciate this. During spring training, when they tested it, they kept the stats on who got the challenges right the most: pitchers, hitters, and catchers. Pitchers were the worst in terms of challenges when they thought something was a ball or a strike. Pitchers were actually the worst at knowing the zone. Catchers and hitters were much better than pitchers. I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, I will say now, because there's a lot more throwers than there are pitchers. Here's the thing. I was taught, and I tell you, many pitchers were taught, throw it on the black and then try to extend it. See how far you can go before the umpire or whatnot, will bring you back in. Now it's how fast can I throw? What's my spin rate? How nasty can I throw it through the strike zone? Nobody's ever talking about hit the corners, hit the black. Nobody ever says that anymore. It's just how nasty is your pitch? What's your spin rate of your pitch? That's what I help guys in the minor leagues. Occasionally they give me a call because I, coached them in high school and college, and some are in the minors now. None of them talk like that. And I'm always like, remember what I taught you.
Yeah.
Start in and then work on those work on the lines. And he's like, and I just talked to a kid in the St. Louis program, and he basically said, none of the coaches say any of that. They're all about spin rate and how nasty my pitches are. And I got to throw more strikes. Nobody's talking about hit the black.
Yeah. It was something that was really started by the Rays, which was, hey, just your stuff is nasty. They had the catcher line up down the middle and say, just let your natural velocity and movement play. Don't worry about hitting your spots. And for pitchers like Tyler Glass now, who throw 99 with ridiculous movement, that works. Very few pitchers have that kind of stuff, and it creates a lot of issues. It really is something where it's not one size fits all, but we have seen more organizations in player development move to that, where, hey, catcher lines up down the middle, just let your natural nastiness play, but it creates a lot of issues.
Anyway, so it's another time for another speak. I would love to sometime this summer, maybe the All-Star break or something, we can find an umpire and just you can tell them, say, look, these are the questions we're going to ask you. We're not going to get crazy. Are you willing to come and just be a little honest?
Well, that would be interesting. I do have to ask, since you mentioned it, who are the umpires you did not like throwing to when you were playing?
Okay, Angel Hernandez never liked calling called strike three late in the game, setting up or closing. Joe West was kind of the same way, and then CB Buckner, I never knew what I was going to get.
So the usual suspects. I mean, CB Buckner and Angel Hernandez have been terrible for 20 years. Angel's obviously not around anymore, but it's the usual suspects here.
But here's the thing. Joe West, I felt like was always, you could always tell him. The thing is, I could say him and CB, both those guys I respected more than Angel, because I would say, hey, where was that? And Angel would yell back a strike, where, CB would say, some like, you just missed it. Or Joe West would say a ball outside. Okay, great. even though maybe I thought it was on the black, he said a ball outside. So I figure if I move it over a couple inches, I'm going to get the call.
Yeah.
But the umpires those are the three that I probably had the most issue with. But the thing is, I never really felt like CB and Joe West, I had issues because I think it was just late in the game and in the setup role and the closing role, they were just like, well, I'm not taking the bat out of, a big named hand off when I was like, kind of a nobody kind of, it was more like, kid, you got to put some years in before you're going to get the status that they get.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I play the game and I understand that the old school way, but come on now, I'm trying to not go back to the minors. So at least they would give me some feedback where some umpires, I'd ask like, hey, was that outside? And they just look at you. I'm like, I'm just asking. I'm not like mad. I'm mad, but I'm like, I want to know. So can I move it? Do I need to move it over, 6 inches or 4 inches? I mean, what is it?
Did you ever in your career get tossed for arguing balls and strikes?
No, but here's the one thing. The only time I ever got tossed, and it was hilarious. I was in AAA. I came in. We were going to drill this guy in the second pitch. First pitch, throw inside. Next pitch, hit him because they wanted me to stay in the game and make it like an accident. And I said, okay. So I came in, first pitch, I threw inside. The umpire threw me out of the game. Didn't even hit him. Didn't even move him back. Okay. And I was like, and I was screaming, yelling, I didn't what? Blah, blah. The manager came out, blah, blah, blah. We had an argument. The next pitcher came in, drilled him first pitch, did not get thrown out of the game. And that was the one. And my manager said, I'm going to make sure you don't have to pay the fine. And I actually never paid a fine. So it was like the umpire totally messed up. Like I didn't even move him. It was almost like a strike almost. But because I was, my pinpoint control was really good at the time and threw a perfect pitch inside, didn't even move back. I was like, man, I should have thrown a little bit farther. And the umpire jumped up and threw me out. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
What just happened? And then the next guy came in and drilled him, didn't throw him out, and ended up pitching the full inning. It was like, huh? So, yeah.
It's the minor leagues for the umpires too. So
and here's the other thing. I was part of the Mets. Remember when the Mets Piazza went ape on Moda?
Yeah, Guillermo Moda, of course.
I was the guy to come in and hit the Dodger pitcher, and I hit him, and then Piazza ran over there, and nobody ever charged me, and I didn't get thrown out because I think the umpire was like, I got to throw these people out. Forget about that young kid. So it was like, I thought I was going to get thrown out. We never did, but it was like, whatever. So,
hey, there you have it. So, fun fact, I've been tossed from a game as a pitcher arguing balls and strikes. It happened to me. So it was a few years ago. I was pitching. So a little background here. I'm a little bit like Rich Hill. Like I'm a pretty chill, normal guy in my real life, but on the mound, I'm a little bit psycho. I have to be dialed up to 11, like to actually be good. So it was a younger umpire. He was new. We hadn't really used him before. This is when I was playing it was just a competitive adult league. I'd played semi-pro for years before, but this was past that, just playing in a competitive wood bat league with some ex-pros. And I was pitching. And this umpire apparently thought the strike zone was ankles to knees. It was really, really frustrating. So I'm out there throwing strikes, on the outside corner. It's just, like thigh high, knee high, and just not getting calls on. A few times like, hey, where is that? And at the second time, I was like, hey, where is that? He gets up behind the plate and comes out and points to me like, get back on the mound. It was like, whoa. And my catcher actually stood up and got in the umpire's face. Like he was escalating. But I was pretty frustrated, right? So at this point, he lets his emotions get the best of him, and he just starts calling everything a ball. I just start grooving fastballs down the middle, thigh high, belt high. Everything is a ball. And batters just stop swinging. And so I'm getting frustrated. And finally, 2 outs, 2 strikes on a guy after some, fouls a few away, whatever. And I throw, center cut fastball, like could not be more of a strike, the very definition of a strike. And I start walking off the mound because I'm like, yeah, it was strike 3. And the umpire just doesn't call it. And I blew up. I absolutely lost it. I started screaming, and I'm not proud of this. I started screaming, are you effing kidding me? What? I told him, you should be effing ashamed of yourself. That's what I told him. I screamed loud, you should be effing ashamed of yourself. And my catcher came and got in between me and him and actually pushed my catcher. I was hot. I was hot, and I got tossed, and I had to leave the field the whole day. And I got fined for dropping F-bombs in front of, there were, wives and children there. So I had to pay a $50 fine for dropping F-bombs. But yeah, my one time getting tossed for arguing balls and strikes.
That's awesome. I respect you more now.
Yeah, so there we have it. Great stories about Kyle having bad episodes and getting tossed from games for arguing balls and strikes with umpires.
All right. Well, if you do that again and miss the wrong pitch, we're going to find you on this show.
Sounds good. I am definitely down for that. Once again, yeah, I own it. My bad. Be better next time. That's all you can do. Like I said, this was me blowing a save. Own it. Short memory. Let's move on. Heath, any final thoughts as we wrap up here?
No, I want the Padres to start, letting the ball get deep. If you're listening to this, let the ball get deep, drive the ball like you did in spring training, and you'll turn it around. It's just going to be a slow start. And stop looking at the scoreboard. Stop looking at your average, and let's just play and try to win day after day. So forget about stats right now.
Yep, they have an off day on Thursday, and then they open up a 3-game set against the Diamondbacks on the road, and then 4 games against the Dodgers in LA. I will be there covering that series, but we've got a lot more to come and a lot more Padres baseball to cover. This has been another edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, whatever platform you're watching, listening on. Please, please, please subscribe, hit that like button. It helps us out. Definitely want to keep growing. We're loving doing this, and it's possible because of all you watching, listening out there. And of course, we will have a second episode with Heath this week. Very, very special. It's a great week. Got a bonus show with Heath Bell. Always good stuff. Epic shirt as always. Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. Take care. See you later this week.